Good morning, dear listeners. This week, we have part 2 of our series on grief. If you are new to the Coach's Cup podcast and you are starting right now, I would encourage you to go back one podcast and catch the beginning of our discussion on last week's episode. This week, we finalize our discussion on grief. We talk about how you can help others move through their grief and ways that we can all learn to accept not only grief, but the other negative emotions that are sometimes we feel like they're too overwhelming in our lives. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode. So purpose was added really recently, right?
Yes. So David Kessler lost a son. I don't remember the story, but he had worked with,
I think about 3 years ago,
Elizabeth Kubler-Ross back in the 70s, I think he said. I knew this as my mom was passing away is when I discovered this. I didn't know. So the one is finding meaning, finding purpose in a loved one's death. So he is an expert on grief, and he noticed for himself, I believe his son has been dead many years, and it has taken him this long before he finally got to where he wanted to find purpose. And he created some type of program, a nonprofit in memory of, to honor his son. Yeah. And that finding that meaning was valuable for him. And I just like that so much, because I think about, trust, or like colleges or these things when people pass away, how these endowments that they created in memory of, or the scholarship of this person, it's in memory of, it's finding their legacy lives on.
Yes. But I do want to quickly jump in, because one of the ways that we do grief wrong, like we really just miss the mark here, is when somebody does suffer a loss and we come in and say something absolutely horrible, like, well, this happened for a reason. That is not what you're saying.
No.
What you're saying is you find a purpose. The person has died, you have lost this relationship, whatever it is. It didn't happen for you to learn something. It happened, but there is purpose that you can derive from this loss.
Sorry, I was reading as you were talking about David's personal experience, which I had forgotten this. He had witnessed a mass shooting.
Oh, wow.
When his mother was dying in a hospital. And that's how he became this grief expert, like his personal journey. And he was taught by physicians, nurses, counselors, police, and first responders about the end of life, trauma, and grief. And then he lost his son, his 21-year-old son. And I believe it was, anywho, I'm looking for the definition, and in this stage, they don't give the linear words on that, on the purpose.
But I think it's different for different people, right? The purpose that you find after the loss is going to be different, depending on who that person was to you. But finding some kind of meaning that works for you to help you move forward.
Yeah, it's moving forward in a way that honors our loved ones.
Yeah. I told you when we were talking about values, I think I've said this a couple of times, humor is one of my values. And I haven't really put this together, but when I think about my aunt who passed away and my grandfather, humor was such a big part of both of them. They're on different sides of my family, but that loving to laugh, loving to just find happiness and joy. And, with my aunt, I can be very sarcastic, and that definitely comes from that side of the family. But finding the laughter, that probably has a lot to do with why humor is one of my values, because I grew up around these people who find humor in life, in all of life situations. And so there's a big purpose moving forward. It helps me to honor them in thinking about, mowing the yard, and I can laugh at myself because they would be laughing at me. I can say something and think about how they would, finding that is purpose. It doesn't have to be a legacy where you're leaving money. I think that's a wonderful thing to do, but it doesn't have to be even that grand,
no.
right?
No. Oh, I don't even know. I need to say I had a zero turn experience on a zero. And mine, I really thought where you were going to go with it was similar to mine. I had a near death experience on
I
one.
know the whole time I was like, this could be the day. This could be the day.
There was no laughter. I was thinking of no uncle. I was like, what the hell is this death trap I'm on? Like this. I am lucky to be alive today.
Yeah.
So, anyway, but
no, it's and it was only it was anyway. I could spend a lot more time telling. We'll have a zero turn experience. Anyway,
very vivid.
Yeah. So those are the stages. But our culture, as we've already said, I've already said this probably 3 or 4 times. One of the things that we have a problem with is feeling those deep emotions, accepting those deep emotions, and grief is really messy. And so people end up either trying to fix it or trying to push it away from them.
Right. They're arguing with it. They're not accepting of it. They're just compounding and making it twisted up with all other feelings. That's why knowing your feelings, allowing yourself to process your feelings, giving yourself grace and time to check in with yourself on the regular.
Yeah.
Because we could go on and on about how our bodies are going to store these feelings and where you're going to be in 5-10 years if you're not learning.
Oh yeah.
To manage your thinking and to check in with yourself.
Yes, it can lead to physical pain. It can lead to so many issues. But I was telling you earlier, I had a friend whose parents owned a funeral home when she was growing up. In fact, I think it was in their home. I think it was like they lived in part of it, and the funeral home was in part of it. But she talked about how, and her father, she was born later in her parents' life. She was their youngest child, and she was one of those surprise babies. And so her father had seen a lot of living and a lot of death at this point in her life. And she said that he often bemoaned the fact that we have gotten away from so many rituals around death and funerals, that even the ritual of scooping a scoop of dirt onto the casket, that each family member used to do that, and that served a really important function in our culture of being able to lead to acceptance. Mm-hmm. And I think so many times in our culture today, we try to block acceptance because I don't know, because it's messy.
Well, because but my thoughts are because we have made it impersonal, because we have farmed it out to the industry and I feel conflicted even as I say this, but the process of death now has become so sterile. Right. It's in we're doing it in hospitals. I know, I am thankful for hospice. But having, the process of death used to be done at home.
Yes.
You buried your own, you cared for them at home, you made the coffin, you cared for them, you decided what they would wear.
Yeah.
The wakes were done at home. And somewhere, I think it was around the 18th century, that it started becoming a business, at least in America. I did this class. It's been 30 hot years ago that I took, 30 plus hot years ago, a death and dying class where we learned about, how the industry of death and dying became a business.
Yeah.
And this depersonalization, we're farming out parts of this, and along with it, our emotions.
Yes.
And not knowing what to do. We're losing the rituals. We're losing the connections that we had, and part of grief is for the living, right? I mean, the rituals,
the community,
funeral, right? It's for the living.
Yes. It's a communal, think about that word in the true sense, a communion, a communion, a communal experience where we all come together. There's usually food involved. It's very much for the living to have that experience of, talking about that person's life, talk about purpose. Many times that is so important in the process of really being able to experience that person's death and accept it. Go ahead.
Well, I was thinking, like with my mother's passing, that I remember talking with the funeral director. And while he was an amazing person, I didn't know him. He didn't know my mom. Right. And it was weird. Now I can see back in the day, right? If you lived in the community and that was your, not only was your funeral director, he's just not someone I knew. So I can, even for myself, witness what it was. I don't even know where I'm going with this. It was very awkward to have this man.
It was a business transaction.
It was business, and he was trying to make it personal. And I know that's all part of the process. It was just, weird. I don't even have words for it. I was just thinking about it now. Anyhow.
Yeah. So I have worked, like I said, I've worked a lot with people who have experienced grief. I've coached some clients who have lost family members, who've lost children, who've lost parents. And I've worked with some other coaches. Back in the spring, we were doing a weekly clubhouse room on stillbirth and miscarriage. And I want to make sure that we talk about the healthy ways to meet grief and to help people who are experiencing grief, because that's the thing. I think so many times we try to sterilize it because we don't know how to fix it. And so it's important to say, you don't have to fix it.
I have a personal story.
Okay, go for it.
So, and I'm cautious as I even say it. So I had a miscarriage when Don and I were first married, and I was running my business. And, my dad is an amazing entrepreneur. He was my business partner. I would not be where I'm at today without either one of my parents. So when I had the miscarriage, I clearly, stages of shock and grief, and I don't even know what all I was going through because it all happened so quickly. I just knew that I was not doing well. Yeah. And I can remember my dad saying to my husband, and we will talk about this often, that my dad was just like, she just needs to snap out of this. He wanted to fix me, in the moment. That's not what any of us needed to hear, but that was his way of hurting and wanting to fix me. And I felt, of course, because I was very young. 25, 27, I don't know.
You were a baby.
Oh, well, compared to now. But, I thought, well, my dad says I need to snap out of this. I need to snap out of this. And I couldn't snap out of it.
Yeah.
It was very, the loss of, never had a baby, but there's a tremendous amount of loss because every date, I knew when I was due, I knew all the things. But the surprising thing that I did find a lot of comfort in was, it's a convenience store would be a lot of male clients. And when I would tell them that I'd had a miscarriage, how many of them would say and share with me that their wives, that they had experienced miscarriages as well. This is back before the Googles.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
and research was not available to me, but finding a lot of comfort and how people were willing to share that story. So anyway, I know.
No, I think that is a beautiful way to talk about how we need to meet people with grief. Your father was uncomfortable with it because he didn't know, he didn't have an understanding of what you were going through. And so in his mind, you just needed to snap out of it and move on. But it's that community. It's that I had this happen too. That sense of, I know your loss, or not, I know your loss, because we all have different experiences.
It's the collective experience.
Yes.
Right. That they had experienced loss and I was experienced loss. And I found great comfort in knowing I was not alone in my loss.
Yeah. And I think one of the things that, as we opened this room week after week and had different women come in and tell their stories, they found so much comfort in people who were willing to just listen to them and be open to it. Some of them had experienced, talked to people who had experienced miscarriages too. So they had that connection, but everybody has experienced loss of some kind, and just feeling like they could open up, because the thing that they felt most often were that they had to be silent. That they couldn't talk about the experience. They had to keep it bottled up because it somehow made them defective. And one of the things that I found so moving is that the ones who, several of them had experienced stillbirth, and they said it was so important to use the baby's name. If the baby had a name, if somebody would say, I'm so sorry about Jill's death, or, whatever the baby's name was, using that name, because the power of reinforcing the fact that you lost a person. So I think the best advice I can give for people who are trying to work with somebody, comfort somebody who's grieving, is that you don't have to fix it. You just need to be there with them and for them and listen and ask, how are you?
Oh, you just nailed all three. Like there is nothing better than that right there. A card matters. If you're physically there, show up.
Yes.
Agreed. You don't have to fix a thing, but I get emotional. The people that show up.
Yeah.
You don't forget that.
No, because grief can be very lonely. It can be very, it can make you feel different and cut off from your community. And that is the thing that you need least when you're feeling it.
Yeah, I think what I'm feeling right now is just this sense of, just gratitude for the people who showed up. I don't even know. I think I'm just getting ready to bust out crying. So.
And that's okay. That is totally okay.
I know this is normal. Wait a minute. Judith's having some feelings. What are you feeling, Judith? Let's just go. Well, I think I'm feeling gratitude, just, and grief at the same time for, I experienced something and talking about it and just thinking about the people who showed up. So I got my cards. I got some cards sent out the other day because I just cleared my phone off from all the messages. Did I tell you this?
Mm-mm.
And I found so there were like, 25 messages. I don't know. My box was, my message box was full, and I had to go in and hear the people who had called, and the last message was from my mom back in November, but I had saved it on purpose, but I'd forgotten, clearly. And it was just, she's just sitting in the parking lot, and jeans in Lowe's, and I just wanted to call you. I was thinking about you.
I love the technology that we have today, the ability to have that. I mean, what a gift.
Truly. It was just like, she was right here.
Yeah.
She's in the parking lot. She's in the parking lot of Lowe's.
That's right. That's right.
Forever.
Well, and I mean, that's your connection. You can reach out and have that whenever you want to hear it.
Yep. Yeah, I know. I'm trying to think, like, I need to get this saved somewhere. What?
I still have on my phone. My grandfather, he had Alzheimer's and he lost his speech. That was, but I have from, I don't know, probably 2014. It's still on my phone. I have my grandparents calling me on my birthday and singing happy birthday. And I don't know. I need to get that transferred because it's been on my phone for 7 years now. Or no, it was longer than 2014. It had to be. I don't even know. It may be like 2010 because I think it was when I was living in Philadelphia. But that is so special to me.
Oh,
my grandfather loved to sing, and so hearing them both sing happy birthday to me, it's.
Oh yeah, I have the last video of my mom when she was, when she was in hospice, of her speaking. Because the next day when I saw her, she was not able to speak.
Yeah,
she would try, but you couldn't understand her.
Yeah,
and she was wishing my husband happy birthday.
Oh yeah, I think you sent that to me.
Did I?
I think so. Yeah, yeah.
She didn't like mustaches.
Yeah.
He better not have a beard. Yeah. I don't like beards. That was the best. Every time she saw him, it was priceless. It was like, he had this beard we've almost been married 30 years. So, because for whatever dementia, whatever, she remembered him without a beard. And every time she would see him the last 5 or 6 years, darn, when did you grow that beard? I don't like beards. Like she'd never seen it before. And that's what's her last words to him. I don't like beards. He better not have one.
That's awesome. Yeah. I think I said that we were going to end this by trying to talk you into walking toward your grief when those moments come. And it is a hard sell. Emotions they're a lot, right? But they are exactly what we're made to feel. And what you're talking about right now, the laughter we've been able to have about the loved ones that we've lost, that is the reason that I want you, dear listeners, to walk toward your grief. Because if you don't process it, if you try to sterilize it and just you don't know what to do with it, it's going to find you, number one.
Oh, yeah.
It expresses itself in physical ailments, chronic pain. There are so many ways that our emotions find us when we resist them.
Which, I was thinking as we were ending, and it's staring me right here in the face, is the RAIN process, which is pretty much what I just did live time about 5 minutes ago, was recognize what is happening. I was recognizing I was getting emotional, allow the experience just to be there, just as it is. So I did. I investigated with interest and care, and I nurtured myself with self-compassion and sharing with you and you also. That's Tara Brock's RAIN acronym. for practicing mindfulness as you feel your feelings. As you move towards your feelings, be thinking of, this.
And something else that's really important for me to share. One of my first coaching experiences actually was with a woman who is, I love her dearly. She was one of the first people I ever coached. We just finished recently another coaching cycle. So she, cycles back when she needs coaching. Right. And she lost her son in a car accident several years ago. About I think we're coming up on 9 years ago. And last year, when I was coaching her, one of the things that she said to me several different times in several different sessions was, I feel like if I give in to the grief, it's going to take over.
Oh, I hear that on the regular. I'm sorry. Yes.
I'm going to go off this cliff and I'm never going to be able to come back from it. I'm just going to stay there.
Mm-hmm. I just last night I had a client, and for her, it was sadness. Mm-hmm. And so like for the week for her, she practiced feeling her feelings on Monday, and that's where we've been trying to go. And she's doing her discovery worksheets and noticing that she is in fact having some feelings, but not able to identify why she was eating and why she did certain things. And it's just that very sentence, the fear that the feeling will overcome you, when in fact, the opposite is true. The longer you resist the feeling, the longer you avoid it and you don't give it the attention and allow your body to process it, the longer it will persist.
Yes. I realized, true story, I realized this morning in the shower, because I was thinking about grief. I realized that I have been grieving about a loss of a community for probably about 12 years. And I had never put it in the thought of, this is grief. Mm-hmm. And I think it kept coming back. It's kept coming back and bothering me like this little, in the back of my head for so long, because I had been resisting it. I just would put it away.
Yeah.
And accepting that, oh, that's what this is. That's why I'm bothered by it. Then that shines it in a completely new light, helps me to look at it and process it finally.
Right. So naming the feeling, right? Naming is always, it's going to be helpful, because it gives your brain some direction and explanation. And it's normal. Mm-hmm. Name it, open up to it,
feel it. That's with this client. One of the things that I was going to say is, last year, on the day before the anniversary of her son's death, we actually spent our time together with me helping her process through her grief. And, she told me what color it was, what it felt like in her body. It moved through her body. Like, we talked, she narrated the entire thing. And in doing that, it helped her release. Now, right. I'm sure we're coming up on the anniversary again this year. That doesn't mean that she's not going to feel it. Absolutely. That doesn't mean that it's not still there, but she knows she can experience it and not, go over that cliff.
Right.
Like you said.
Right. It's very similar when I'm coaching with clients that, we process right there in the moment. Like, yes. I like stop the session. Like, wait a minute, what's that emotion you're feeling right now? Let's name it.
Yes.
Where do you feel it? Allowing it, witnessing it, and they process through. And then at the end, I'm always able to come right back and say, this is what processing, and how do you feel now? Right. And see, it didn't carry on. That's how long a feeling will last. Just like now, I'm like not feeling grief. I process through that emotion.
Anyway. And it will come back.
It will come back.
Process it. And that's okay. There's no time limit on how long it lasts. Nope. There's no time limit on how long you feel it. How many, if a year from now, if you're still doing that, you're still doing that.
Because of Because why, Sonya? Because of my thinking. I'll be thinking about my person, whatever it is that I'm grieving. When I'm having sentences in my brain cause a chemical reaction in my body.
Yeah. That's all it is, folks. So please don't resist it. Walk toward it. And in doing that, you'll find that when those happier moments come in, you'll also feel the contrast of those moments at a deeper level. Mm-hmm. So, kind of a heavy topic, kind of a bit, just a bit, but so important for us to all, I think, talk about, think about, accept. We're going to be there. And if we're not there, we know somebody who is. So
for sure. And that, again, we all process differently, and that men may process differently than women. Women may be more verbal. Men may not be more as verbal.
And that's okay too.
Yep.
Many times as women, I think where we fall short is we think that men need to talk about things like we do.
Oh my gosh. That is so funny. So true. Yeah.
And
they don't have words, y'all. They don't have them.
And bless their hearts, how often do they wish we didn't have them? But just realize there's no right way. There's no recipe that you follow, no instruction sheet that you follow.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Well, nobody I'd rather talk about grief with than you.
Oh, same. I gotcha. It was really nice. And the discussions we have.
Yeah.
But I do like the idea of a zero turn podcast.
Yeah, I'll tell you the full story. I didn't tell you all of it, but just the highlight reel. Anyway, if you are looking for coaching, you can find me at sonyagreencoaching.com, and I would be happy to work with you on whatever. I typically work with women on confidence and imposter syndrome, but I also work with women on grief. It kind of surprised me how many clients I've had who we end up talking about grief, and it's very powerful to help people through the process.
Sonya, without saying, we do what we do because we have a passion, a heart for service, for being there for others, to shine a light on the path. And on a similar note, like, while people may come to me to coach on weight loss, I want to let the big secret out of the bag, y'all, because tell you, like,
preach.
They will always say, like, but I'm not losing weight. There's this big thing, like, they think that other people who are getting coached are having like this miraculous things going on. But here's the thing, we're coaching on this right here. Like, you make your plans, and why are you overeating, and what are you feeling here? And this is the work.
This is the work.
If you want to work with me, you find me, you just Google Corinne Crabtree. I'm with one of the amazing coaches of the No BS weight loss program, and I'm part of the one-on-one program there. And I'll coach you on anything you want to. I'm going to coach you on what comes up in between you and your weight loss goals.
Exactly.
That's
exactly
life.
Yeah, it is the big secret. It's all, no matter what coaching we do, it all comes down to our thoughts and feelings.
Yep.
All right. Well, folks, I would also ask that if you love this podcast and find the value in it that we do, please give us a review. We want to bump our reviews up because other people find us when you give us one of those 5-star reviews. So if you will help us, we appreciate it. We've doubled our reviews recently, so I appreciate that, but let's get them even higher so that everybody can join in on these great discussions that we have.
I'm always just blown away how smooth you are with words, Sonya. It's so good.
I know what I do.
What am I supposed to say? Get in there, y'all. Come on. express yourself, get your voice out there.
That's right. That's right. It could be a 4.5-star review. We're okay with that too.
Share because you care.
All right. We'll see you next week.
Bye.